Hi everyone, and I'm going to show you how to become an alien. We're going to take a poem by Craig Raine, a pretty well-known British poet who's still alive. I'll scroll down here and give you the information on our guy down there, British poet, born 1944. This poem was written in 1980, and I want to walk through it briefly with you as a kind of precursor or preamble to what we'll be doing in this brief semester in the summer. Um, Martian sends a postcard home, as the name might imply. You can imagine a little green guy on Mars sending a postcard home, or sorry, a little green guy on Earth sending a postcard home to his friends on Mars. And so what you're going to experience in the poem is a list of things that he finds fascinating, interesting, intriguing on Earth. But the catch is he doesn't really know what they're used for. Often he doesn't know the right name. So in each one of these inventory items, we're going to have to piece together first what it is he's actually talking about. So let's start at the beginning. Caxtons are mechanical birds with many wings, and some are treasured for their markings. They cause the eyes to melt or the body to shriek without pain. So as we read on, I'm going to do this pretty quickly, but as you read on, um, you'll you'll come to understand, I think, that the Caxtons, he's referring to William Caxton, who was the first printer in England. And he doesn't know the name book, but I'm pretty sure that this is what he's talking about. Look at that again. Caxtons, or books, are mechanical birds with many wings, and some are treasured for their markings. Well, that's certainly true that we treasure um, the leaves of books, right? The pages of books, the wings of books, because of what's on them, their markings. They cause the eyes to melt or the body to shriek without pain. The eyes to melt. What is that? Well, that's probably crying, right? Sometimes you're reading something very emotional, you might even produce a tear. Or the body to shriek without pain. You might laugh as you read a book. Again, the Martian isn't understanding that you're taking in information in the book. He just feels as if you're looking at this beautiful bird in your hands, and your eyes are melting or your body is shrieking. I've never seen one fly, but sometimes they perch on the hand. Really, really beautiful, odd, unfamiliar, even defamiliarizing image of a book. Wouldn't you agree? Let's continue on. Mist is when the sky is tired of flight and rests its soft machine on ground. Then the world is dim and bookish like engravings under tissue paper. I love the idea of mist. It happens when the sky is tired of flight. There are so many twists and turns in that, right? We don't think of the sky as a sentient being, right, that flies. So again, it's this Martian seeing his surroundings in a kind of radically new way. Then the world is dim and bookish like engravings under tissue paper. Many students have noticed how he knows the name or the adjective bookish, but he doesn't know the name book, right? He doesn't know the thing. So that's kind of an interesting question in the poem. But let's continue on. Rain is when the earth is television. It has the property of making colors darker. Really strange little image there, right? He's referring to after it rains, how pavement becomes darker. You know, the green grass is greener. Everything seems almost like Technicolor. And the way I have of thinking about this is thinking back to my childhood in the 70s, thinking about how TV, you know, even then the Technicolor, the colors weren't quite right. They were a little garish, right? It's very different today with HD, but I think here the Martian is commenting on that kind of odd, almost false synthetic nature of color on TV, and how also when it rains, the colors become so vibrant that they're otherworldly. Model T is a room with the lock inside. So quick, a key is turned to free the world from movement. Sorry, so quick there's a film to watch for anything missed. That's a wonderful image of a car, isn't it? Again, he doesn't know the name car, but he knows Model T, a very particular and also antiquated type of car. And this is a room with the lock inside, so obviously you can probably guess what the lock inside is. This would be your ignition, right? And you can turn that to free the world from movement. So quick there's a film to watch for anything missed. What is that film? Right? Well, it's probably the rear view mirror. Again, he's not seeing that as a reflection. He's seeing that as a little film that's playing. Really fascinating image. but time is tied to the wrist or kept in a box ticking with impatience. Maybe out of all the images, that's one that we may have almost heard before, the idea of time being kept in a box or time is tied and all of that. But still kind of a wonderful image of an almost commentary on how earthlings, in his mind, um, interact with the world. We're just, I'm getting Skype, sorry about that. We're always getting um, impatient with time, right? We're always keeping time and ticking off the minutes. So this is kind of interesting commentary on earthling life. In homes, a haunted apparatus sleeps that snores when you pick it up. If the ghost cries, they carry it to their lips and soothe it to sleep with sounds, and yet they wake it up deliberately by tickling with a finger. Really kind of wild image here. A haunted apparatus sleeps that snores when you pick it up. Now, a lot of readers the first time around will say something like, well, that's a child. And it does sound sort of like a child, right? It snores when you pick it up. It cries and they soothe it to sleep and all, and they tickle it. So you have this image of a child, but again, it's an apparatus, right? And if you think about what this Martian has been doing the whole time, he's not really talking about living beings. He's often doing the opposite. He's taking inanimate objects and reanimating them, right? So in this example, you might think about that haunted apparatus as a phone. Let's see if that makes sense. In homes, a haunted apparatus sleeps. It snores when you pick it up. Now, maybe many of you don't remember the days of the dial tone, but I sure do. And when you picked up that phone off of the receiver off of the base, you got that dial tone, right? That's the snoring when you pick it up. If the ghost cries, if the phone rings, they carry it to their lips and soothe it to sleep with sounds, right? They talk into it. Again, he doesn't know that there's someone on the other end to whom you're speaking. He just sees you pick up a phone and start talking to it, right? Really wonderful, almost childlike image, right? And yet they wake it up deliberately by tickling with a finger. They call people. They punch buttons on the phone, right? They push buttons on the phone. Really fantastic way of thinking about a phone there at the end. Here's another great one. Only the young are allowed to suffer openly. Adults go to a punishment room with water but nothing to eat. They lock the door and suffer the noises alone. No one is exempt, and everyone's pain has a different smell. Okay, so this is a room in a house, right? It's a punishment room with water but nothing to eat. Where in a house is there a room with water but nothing to eat? Well, you guessed it, it's the bathroom, right? They lock the door, as many people do, and suffer the noises alone. No one is exempt, and everyone's pain has a different smell. I mean, this is a Martian that's getting a little bit into potty humor here, literally, right? He's talking about going to the bathroom, right? And this is the way the Martian experiences that activity. It's pretty wild, right? And it's also kind of fun when we read through this poem. It's often in class, everyone's so serious. This is a very serious business poetry. And then you get down here and the guy's referring to people taking craps in toilets. So it's kind of an interesting moment in the poem, and also very, very, again, defamiliarizing. You don't think of bathrooms as punishment rooms, right? We don't think of pain having a smell. And that's kind of what I really want to talk to you about this semester, is this radical reimagining that the alien can do, right? He's really poetic in this sense. Of course, it's Craig Rain who's the puppet master here, right? But this Martian is a pretty savvy little poet. Then it ends here with this last image. At night, when all the colors die, they hide in pairs and read about themselves in color with their eyelids shut. Again, colors dying, pain smelling. These are, if we wanted to get fancy, we could use the term synesthesia, where you begin to mix and match sensory details. You can colors, a visual phenomenon, can be biological and can die, right? Pain, which is a physical sensation, can now take on an olfactory sensation and become a smell. It's really, really fascinating way of kind of changing the world, reimagining the world. So at night, when all the colors die, they hide in pairs and read about themselves in color with the eyelids shut. And it's just a wonderful image of two people hiding in pairs. I love that, in bed. And this is REM sleep, right? The rapid eye movement. Their eyes are going back and forth, and the Martian imagines this as them reading about themselves in color. That's dreaming, right? Really fantastic. One of my students once brought up the eerie fact that this Martian is going around stalking people, it looks like, right? Watching them as they sleep, which is kind of unsettling, I think, for the most part. So you get the sense that in this poem, it's a pretty radical reimagining of the world. I mean, Craig Rain is literally giving you a Martian perspective, or what he considers to be a Martian perspective. Now, that's not always what we need to do. We don't need to be that literal about our alienness. For example, after you get done reading this video, if you click on the next link, which is to David Bottom's poem, Under the Vulture Tree, I think you'll see a little subtler use of this type of alien perspective, where the poet comes up with new ways of describing the world, oftentimes not very sophisticated. Oftentimes it's almost childlike, the way a child will look at a cloud and say, oh, there's an alligator, there's an elephant. This is the same type of sensation and sensibility that writers often have when they engage with the world. They can approach it much like a child does. So what I want you to do after you read through this poem again and really kind of think about each one of these images, then go read someone like David Bottom's and his poem Under the Vulture Tree, which is a lot subtler of a treatment of this alien perspective. And what I want you to try to do is just a few things. I want you to locate one or two specific images in that poem, Under the Vulture Tree, that you believe to be representative of a new way of seeing, an almost alien perspective, okay? And I want you to write about why you think that way. Make your case for those 2 or 3 images, why they're so powerful, why they seem fresh to you, and try not to rely on a kind of tautology where you say, well, this image seems fresh because it's really fresh and I've never heard it before. What I want you to do is get in there and say, this image is fresh, and here's why I believe that, right? For example, let's just take a look at an example here. When he refers to books as mechanical birds with many wings, and he's never seen one fly, but sometimes they perch on the hand. I'm sort of curious about, it is a very new way of seeing the world, but it's also this really kind of problematic image in which the book is somehow lame. The book is disabled. It doesn't work, right? It doesn't fly. It's a mechanical bird that does not fly. And if you look through this poem, there's oftentimes this sense that things are dysfunctional. People are locking themselves in rooms and hiding at night. And this just seems like an eerie representation of life on Earth. So when you get to the David Bottom's poem, read it closely, choose a couple images that you feel work to reimagine the world, some new, fresh way of talking about the world around him, and then try to make a case for why you think it's that way. Okay? And I look forward to reading those responses as you'll post them on our discussion board. Thanks for listening.